Konnichiwa.
It's history in the making, and we want you to be part of it.
That's a given.
Talking about people who are changing the game.
You guys have run a tight ship here. Oh my gosh.
The rock star sitting here.
I can't even describe it.
Talking about actual business.
Two beings at the top of their professions.
Started.
Lightning quick movements.
Changing
The rock star sitting here. It's just started.
That's right, folks. We are back again and just getting started. Welcome back to the Real Value Podcast. My name is Blaine and I am your host for this and every episode of the Real Value Podcast, the podcast about real estate, lending, appraising, success, life, love, communication, and, well, how it all fits together. I would like to give a big Value Syndicate welcome and thank you from the bottom of my heart for investing your most valuable currency, which is your time, with me today. I'd also like to welcome all of the new subscribers to the show this week. I had a plan of kind of saying hello by name to all the new subscribers each week. I thought that'd be kind of fun. But very good problem that we've had is that we've had so many new subscribers every day over the past month or so that it would simply take up too much time in the first part of the show to do so. So let me just say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you. I really appreciate your confidence and your endorsement of the show by subscribing, and I look forward to having a conversation with you each week. And I really commit to trying to add some value to your life and to your business. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that. As I mentioned in the last episode, excuse me, with all the new subscribers, of course, comes lots of great conversation, lots of great interaction, lots of great questions and comments, which is definitely my favorite part of doing the podcast. It's my favorite part of the business, really, is interaction with people. And sometimes as appraisers, we get stuck in our offices behind our desks and behind the computer, and we don't get to interact. And I know a lot of appraisers are attracted to that aspect. I'm somewhat introverted myself, but I love it when I do get in front of people or with people networking, because it allows us to receive some of their energy and also give energy, and it's sometimes how we are re-energized. And the only thing second to that favorite part is, of course, creating the content that I put out each week. I love having quality conversations with intelligent people, and to see the questions and comments that have been coming in each week from all of you is really inspiring to me. And I had a question come up several weeks ago via email from a listener, and we had a really nice discussion back and forth, which tends to happen each day in my office with the subscribers. I will get emails from people, and they'll ask simple questions or my input or advice. And I always respond in person to all of the emails, so sometimes we'll have just a nice back and forth email. But I had the question come up a couple times after this from other listeners, so I figured I'd talk about it on the show. And I also thought it was going to be a great opportunity to broach this topic, which I know is a very sensitive one. And so we will get right into it. The original question came from Janelle. She said I could use her name. And she said, "Hey, Blaine, I just wanted to say that I love the podcast and the topics that you've been talking about lately. I was wondering what your thoughts were on appraisers also being realtors, or vice versa." She said, "I am an appraiser who is thinking about becoming a realtor as well, and I'm not sure if I'd be doing myself more harm than good by doing so. Would love your thoughts on this topic, since I know you said you used to be a realtor as well." And she is correct. I used to be in the real estate industry. I used to be in the mortgage lending side of things. I'm in the appraising side of things as well. I've also been a real estate investor, am a real estate investor. I've been in the development side, the construction side. I've kind of done it all. So first off, thank you, Janelle, for posing the question and trusting that I may have something valuable to say on the topic. I appreciate that. Thanks to the others who also asked the same question. We had our email exchanges back and forth, and I hope I added value there. But I think what you're going to get today is a much more in-depth explanation and exploration of this topic. I certainly do have an opinion on it, and that opinion, of course, has developed and evolved over many years of being involved in all these different businesses, or I should say these different aspects of the real estate business. So I'm going to try to do my best to express my answer from a couple different angles. And again, while doing so, inject some value that I hope you all take away from it. Now, what I've learned over the years of teaching people is that everybody hears something different. We all hear and see and smell and taste and feel through our own filters, through our own paradigms, through our own attitude, personalities, upbringing, beliefs, all of those things. And so I try to say things from a bunch of different ways because I know that those different ways will touch different people in different ways, and everybody hears something different. So I'm going to try to offer a few bits of advice and a few pieces of strategy for building your business. Now, I know on this particular topic that a very, very small minority of real estate appraisers will take advantage of this advice and business strategy. And again, I hope you have your talking pad, your pen and pencil or paper ready, because I'm going to give you some scripts and I'm going to give you some language to use a little bit later on in the show. And I hope it, again, adds some value for you. And to do this, to talk about this strategy, again, I have to talk about real estate agents a little bit deeper than just saying whether or not I think it's a good idea or a bad idea to split your time somehow between real estate appraising and real estate sales. I'm definitely going to answer Janelle's question. Stick with me on it. It's going to be in the last part of the episode, so stay tuned. Unlike many appraisers out there, this needs to be said right from the beginning. I am not one of those appraisers who sees realtors as the enemy. For those of you not watching on the video, the YouTube channel, I'm doing air quotes with my hands. I do not see real estate agents as the enemy. In fact, I've seen this posted now over the last couple months on several occasions in several different places on the internet. And to be honest, I have no idea. I don't even understand what that means. The term enemy is a very strong negative term, and to be applying it to a group of people that I consider to be valuable partners in the whole value chain of real estate is, as far as I'm concerned, the absolute wrong attitude to have in this business. And I think it actually speaks to one of the big problems in this business. And I don't say that necessarily because I used to be a real estate agent. I was a real estate agent. I wasn't that great at one. I learned a ton, but I think, as I've said in prior episodes, I got in it very young, and I didn't know how to sell. I didn't understand selling, and I got an education about selling. And I did well for the lack of knowledge that I had. I'd be a much more quality real estate agent today, but back then I wasn't the greatest. So my experience in that realm, real estate sales, I don't think plays a whole lot of role in my answer or my view on this topic. Although my background in real estate, of course, led me to many friends that I still have today that are still in the real estate field, and they have meant a huge a part of me building my business. We meet all the time. We network. They've introduced me to lenders and so on and so forth, which I'll talk about. So I don't say this necessarily because I was a realtor, although I have no doubt that it's formed part of my belief system about working with real estate agents and the role they play in our business. But I say it simply because it's Business 101. Business 101. Identify the valuable strategic partners in your industry. And I'm talking about the appraisal industry, although if I'm talking to real estate agents or I'm talking to lenders or I'm talking to anybody else, I don't care if it's the ice cream business. You identify the valuable strategic partners in your industry. You make connections. You become a resource. And then you help educate them and you lift them up. I hope you wrote that down. Identify the valuable strategic partners, make connections, become a resource, and then help educate them and lift them up. So if anybody out there wants a solid strategy for how to survive the next decade in this business, it's right there. 4 simple steps. But unfortunately, for many of you, your attitude, your language, your belief systems, the embedded paradigms or view you have of the world in this regard, I fear will all but ensure your demise. This hatred for realtors runs deep in this business, and I get it to some extent. There is a belief among many of you that salespeople are all liars, all cheats. They would sell their mother down the river for a few shekels, these kind of thoughts and ideas. And many of you also believe that realtors are the ones screwing up the markets by overselling, overpricing, lying on listings, not measuring properties, not doing their due diligence, misreporting on the MLS, not getting good info on the homes that they list, a host of other issues. I've seen them all. And I've experienced them all. I'm not naive. I know these things exist. All of these things have some truth. I've encountered the same issues as all of you have in this regard. And we talk about it in our office all the time. But the difference between the way we talk about it and the way many of you talk about it, at least from what I see online, is that we are solution-based. We're positive thinkers. We're solution-based. We talk about solutions. And many of you just bitch about it on forums and Facebook groups, which does nothing, solves no problem whatsoever. We discuss ways to educate realtors about the issues we run into and how the quality of their information can be a real asset to our business. Many of them don't even know. They don't understand what they're doing or not doing. Some do, but they're rare. When you see miscalculated square footage or you see square footage on a listing that was just taken from a previous listing and a previous listing and they're just recopying without doing any research, it's no different than in an appraisal business. They simply could have been taught by their real estate mentor that this is the best way to do it. But with that being said, we have to hold a belief somewhere within us that it could also be a new agent who, if spoken to like a respected human being and a respected, valued partner within the real estate value chain, would want to do better. And that's the belief that we hold in our office. So we always write these things down, the things that we see, the things that are most common. Sometimes when we see that stuff, we simply, every MLS usually has some button somewhere that says report a violation, which doesn't mean you're reporting the listing agent. You're simply reporting missing information on the MLS. We go up there and we put a nice note in here. Hey, per the appraiser's actual laser measurements, the square footage is this and not this. And then we're helping to change those listings on the MLS without necessarily talking negatively about the real estate agent. Can there be some difficult ones out there? Yep, absolutely. Can there be some newbies who don't know what they're doing and maybe do some things incorrectly? Yep. Can there be ones that overprice, oversell, and maybe underwork their listings? Yep, for sure. Can there be some downright a-holes who you simply hate to see pop up on the listings that you have to call? Yep. They're in every market, in every city around the world. Guaranteed. And so as we have this conversation, understand that in a parallel universe somewhere, there is a real estate agents or brokers meeting or a realtor podcast going on where the word realtor or real estate agent that I'm using in our podcast is replaced with the word appraiser in their meeting or podcast, meaning they're saying the same things about us that you're saying about them. They have similar issues with appraisers, and I know it because I hear it in every single talk, meeting, workshop, class, course, or Con Ed that I have the good fortune of leading. The a-hole appraisers that they've had to deal with who have no personality, won't take any of their info, don't care what they have to say, send them nasty emails when they try to communicate with the appraiser, shoot them down on the phone, call them stupid, and on and on and on the list goes. These are the people that they've dealt with. And it may be the only appraiser they've dealt with until they meet somebody like me. So, of course, I listen like a good therapist would, and I simply nod my head in agreement. Yep, I agree. And when they're all done venting, I simply say, I'm sorry, folks. I'm truly sorry that you have had such a horrible experience with some of the members in our industry. Now, by the way, before I go into this whole thing, this is some of the scripting. This is some of the language that I'm hoping that you'll get. And if you want to stop and replay this over and over and over to write some of the language down, there's some strategic words in here, and there's some strategic behavior. That's why I prefaced it with saying like a good therapist would. Part of making a personal connection or an emotional connection with somebody is listening for understanding. Instead of listening for an opening to say something and to respond like most people do, you listen. And I've talked about this in other podcasts. The true art of listening to really what's being said. So I listen like a good therapist would. And I nod my head in agreement, and then I wait. I let them vent. And these are the words that I use, typically. I say, I'm really sorry, folks. I'm sorry that you've had such a horrible experience with some of the members of my industry. I cannot promise you that it will never happen again because I don't speak for the other appraisers in our market. They haven't given me permission to do that. I can only speak for me and my company. And what I can assure you is that you will never have that experience with us. Now, we won't always make you happy. We won't always be in agreement on value. We won't always make all of your deals sail through to the closing table. And that's not our job. Our job is to be an objective set of eyes and ears in the market for our client, the bank, the group loaning the money for that asset, and to let them know what the market data says about the risk associated with this particular deal. Our job is not to hit a number, it's not to make people happy, and it's not to hold back or propel markets in any particular direction. This is a popular myth amongst real estate agents I hear all the time, by the way. So then I go on to say, understand that I am the only person in the whole real estate transaction that is not motivated by a commission, that is dependent on the deal closing, and that is by design. And what I'm going to try to do today is explain to you in the best way that I know how, why that's a good thing, and how that helps you. It is the mechanism that allows us to remain a disinterested party in this transaction, to remain unbiased, and to remain objective. I then, of course, go on discussing the topics that at hand, whatever the title of that particular talk is, and we address some more of these issues at the end of the talk when we always do a Q&A. The Q&A, by the way, on almost every talk that I have ever given, always goes as long as the talk, or almost, unless it's a 3-hour Con Ed course. But the Q&A almost always goes as long as the talk, if not longer. And as I've said in past episodes, I have never, in 18 years of doing this, had a group leave a talk or a workshop or a Con Ed and not comment on all the stuff that they learned that they didn't know about what we do, which is why it's so important to do that kind of community outreach and develop your speaking skills, develop your teaching skills, develop your communication skills, because quite often they simply don't know. So many of them have no idea the standards and the regulations that we're held to. They think we just make stuff up. They have no idea about Fannie Mae, about Freddie Mac, about HUD, about FHA. I mean, they know that these exist. They hear them in their industry all the time, but they don't know about the standards and the regulations under which we're bound. They don't know about the lender-specific overlays and underwriting guidelines that we have to follow. They have no idea about revision requests and some of the often crazy requirements placed upon us by lenders, by AMCs, and other users of our reports. They have no idea about state investigation boards and how much liability we have with every report. They learn about that stuff if they get pissed at you and then they want to call the state investigation board and they want to turn you in. But when they're not unhappy with you, they don't understand that every report we're putting our career literally on the line. And so being able to explain that in their language, in a compassionate way, in a way that they understand, brings awareness to them. And they always afterwards go, I had no idea. I had no idea that that's what goes into an appraisal. Now, is that their fault? Who cares whose fault it is? I don't. That would just be another thing to sit and bitch about. Oh, the broker should have taught them all of this. No, this gives me an opportunity. Blame is for the other guy to place. Blame is for the weak. Blame is for the losing side of an argument. We're problem solvers, so we don't waste 1 minute of time trying to assign blame to anybody. We leave that for the losing side of an argument. We see a problem, we transmute the problem, we change it, we alter it into an opportunity. We create dialogue, language, scripting that then gets put into our talks and our workshops. We express our point of view to them in the form of instruction, in a form of instruction on how they can be better agents for us, and then how we can help them as the appraiser, and we win, win, win. That's called taking control of a situation and leveraging it in your favor and to your benefit. Where we see a problem with real estate agents, we design a solution, and then we sell them on our solution to the problem. I'm not saying we sell them the solution for money. I'm saying we sell them with our language, our communication skills on our solution to that problem. A lot of times it's simply education. Our solution to almost every one of those problems is to have them use us, my company, in every possible scenario that they can. Now, of course, we know they can't choose us. The lender has to do that. But I'm going to explain to you a strategy in this regard. What this is called, I want to explain it so you're familiar with it because I'm going to talk about it in other episodes as well. It will pop up in episodes and courses that we intend to put out in the future. This is called the push-pull method of business development. What I just expressed in that scenario, and we employ in our market very effectively, is what's called the pull side of a very sophisticated strategy of building a business. In almost every scenario that one would encounter in life, there are options. There's options in how it can be dealt with. These are life lessons, by the way. I'm going to get to specific strategies, but I want you to be thinking and listening to these things and thinking, how could I use this in other areas of my life? Every problem that you encounter in life has a spectrum of solutions. If you think of it like a small ruler, a 12-inch ruler, imagine this. On the left side of the ruler, if the ruler's facing you, you got 1 on the left side, you have 12. Let's say it's a 12-inch ruler on the right side. On the left side of the ruler from, say, 1 inches to 5 inches, almost to the middle, moving toward the center, are solutions we might call terrible solutions to, as we move to the center, suboptimal. Not the greatest, but not the worst. From the middle of the ruler to the far right of the ruler, 6 to 12 inches, the solutions get better. Presumably at the far end of the right side of the ruler is the absolute best solution to whatever that problem is. Sometimes the absolute best option isn't available to you in that moment, but the idea, the concept, is to remember that every problem has a multitude of solutions, and your job as an intelligent thinking being is to get better and better at quickly analyzing the problem and then picking the best 2 or 3 solutions, not necessarily narrowing it down to one, but discarding the ones that you can immediately see are not good options. You quickly eliminate the ones that may make the problem worse. We call it escalation. You narrow down to the most optimal ones, and then you choose the best solution for the problem. Sometimes you don't know what the best solution is until you try it, and then you get results, feedback, and then you go, okay, that wasn't the best, let's go to the next one. And then you narrow it down from there to the best solution. The point being that there are 10 solutions, maybe 20, maybe 50. Maybe there's only 5, but there's more than one. So with that being said, when it comes to building a business, there are a multitude of challenges in doing so. Everybody who's started a business knows this. One of the challenges that almost every business faces is the challenge of getting business, of selling their product or service to their intended market, or at least getting the word out to the world about their solution to a particular problem, which presumably is their product or service. Appraisers and appraisal companies are no different in that regard. We all have to figure out a way to market our services, sell our product, which is our service, not the appraisal, and get the word out to the world about us. And we have a few options available to us to get immediate business, like signing up with an AMC. But of course, I wouldn't recommend it. I know others don't recommend it as well. I wouldn't recommend that as far as a business strategy for building your whole business around that type of work. So you set out to get a better mix of business instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. And in doing so, you have a few options available to you. Again, this is the spectrum of worst to best. Two of those solutions are that you can push your product or service onto your customers and clients. Like standing on a street corner with a big placard. Hey, I'm an appraiser. I'm good. I'm fast. Whatever. You can push your product or service onto your potential market, onto your customers. Like doing mailers, cold calling, telling the world how good you are, doing commercials, walking into banks and asking for business. All of these are viable methods, by the way. It's how I built my business, walking into banks. Pulling business, that's the push method. Pulling business from the market is a more sophisticated, more stealthy option, but a far more effective one, whereby you become the recognized authority, the recognized resource, and the ultimate provider of whatever product or service you offer. And when you succeed in this way, the people in your market, i.e. your clients or your potential clients, they become your de facto sales force, thus pulling the business to you. Now, I know this concept of having a sales force in an appraisal business is somewhat foreign, but you'll hear me say it all the time. You can create a sales force that's working for you almost 24/7 if you do it the right way. And it pulls the business into your business. In essence, they refer clients to you, they tell the world about you, and they literally and figuratively pull clients by the hand to your door. And both methods work, by the way, push and pull. Every business has available to them push and pull methods of marketing, advertising, selling. Both methods work, and most businesses, by the way, need to use both methods to be successful. The problem is very few are good at developing the pull method. Some of you have gotten really good at the push method. You've gotten good at marketing. You've gotten good at Google AdWords. You've gotten good at SEO and having good websites. And some of you do speaking engagements like we do, and you get the word out there. And by the way, doing some of those things help the pull side. But you're still pushing your information onto them. A good example of this is Apple products. If we take Apple as an example, they have some of the best, absolute best marketing campaigns on the planet. Do they have the best products on the planet? No. In some cases, not by a long shot. I have MacBook Pros, MacBook Airs, iPads, iPhones. I have Apple TV. But I also have Lenovo laptops, Galaxy tablets, Galaxy phones, a variety of non-Apple products. And in many cases, the pure specs alone on the non-Apple products blow away the specs on the Apple products in almost every case. Nevertheless, we bought into the cult of Apple, and we have become, to some degree, evangelists for their products over the years, willingly overpaying and overselling their benefits to others who might be thinking of buying them. We've become the de facto sales force for Apple. They've effectively utilized the push-pull method of putting their products and services into homes around the world using this. They push their products onto people through their ingenious marketing efforts, and they pull the business to them via their more than typically motivated fan base of evangelists. The problem that many of you identify with regard to real estate agents is a real one. Again, I get it. Albeit one probably made even worse by some of the attitudes and personalities of a good many appraisers out there. However, as I say and teach in almost every episode, the language one uses to identify their surroundings, the things in their environment, will determine what they see and how they see it. Words, language, syntax. If you call a real estate agent the enemy, you have an obligation to your subconscious mind to make sure that they are the enemy, lest you contradict yourself in your mind. And where there's a contradiction between what you consciously say to the world and what you unconsciously believe and reinforce on a daily basis with your words and feelings, the subconscious will always win. You can't simultaneously hold a conscious belief that real estate agents are okay, maybe a good source of potential business, and also simultaneously subconsciously believe that they are the enemy. You can't hold those two opposing thoughts. The subconscious one will always beat out the conscious one. I believe I talked about this in one of the other podcasts, maybe about adding value or mindset thinking. You can't be upset about rich people and expect to become rich yourself. You can't say wealthy people are evil, but expect to have a 50-foot yacht. One will cancel out the other. The subconscious belief that you hold will make all of your words, your mannerisms, your actions congruent with that deeply held belief. And they will smell it. The real estate agents, the lender, anybody that you come in contact with will smell it, and they will never call or send business your way. Or they may do it once, but they'll never do it again. To which many of you might say, good, don't want it, Blaine. To which I would say, silly, absolutely silly. Grow up. Private work is some of the best work out there for appraisers. And when it's delivered to you with an endorsement, a heartfelt endorsement from a respected real estate agent, price almost becomes irrelevant. It's rarely an issue, and the people are more or less pre-sold on your reputation. And by the way, those are the clients that stay, say, and pay more. Talked about that in previous episodes, and I'll talk about it in more. It's the type of client that we are all trying to attract. Clients that will stay, say, and pay. Clients that are loyal to you and will stick around. The lifetime value of a client who orders one appraisal a month from you for 10 years is quite often more valuable than a client who orders 10 or 12 appraisals from you over the next couple weeks, but then you never hear from again or doesn't pay. Lifetime value of a client, very, very important in business. We're trying to get clients who stay, say, and pay. They stick around because they're loyal. They talk about us, pass our name along to others. That's the say part, and pay, meaning they're willing to pay what we ask. And then they sell that to other people. Hey, you may pay a little more with this appraiser, but it's well worth it. They do the selling for us. Another thing that I believe is that every problem has within it the seeds of a possible solution. The problem has to simply be identified properly for the best solution on that spectrum, on that little measuring ruler that I talked about, for it to be identified properly and then deployed. This particular problem, let's call it a challenge. It's really only a problem for you. It's not a problem for me. This challenge that many of you have with regard to real estate agents, and at least my assessment, my opinion of it, and the way that we've gone about it has been to get in front of it and become the voice and the resource for them in my market, and by default, then becoming the recognized authority on the value topic, the appraisal topic, which in turn inspires many of them to become, again, my de facto sales force, sending us business in the way of pre-listing appraisals. And again, some of you might say, yeah, I don't do those. I don't like doing them. Fine, don't take them. They send divorce and legal work. Yeah, I don't do that work either. Fine, don't take it. We're going to. Estate appraisals, date of death appraisals, their own personal deals. I'm going at the end of this week. This is the 5th one in the last 3 months to appraise the home of the father of the president of one of our largest mortgage companies here in town. What an endorsement of me and my company that the owner, one of 2 owners of the largest mortgage company in our town, our city, we have a big city, calls me for I did his brother's appraisal and his father's appraisal. I'm doing his father's appraisal at the end of this week. Never any pressure. They always just say, Blaine, do what you do best. We want the real value, which is the name of my company. Isn't that what we would all want in that private realm? So the very first thing I would tell anyone and everyone listening is first to remove the word enemy from your vocabulary when it comes to your business. If you want to talk about something you saw in the news or in politics or another country and you want to use the word enemy, fine. But don't use it when it comes to your business. Don't call realtors the enemy. Don't call lenders the enemy. Don't call AMCs or Fannie or Freddie or HUD or FHA, whoever. Don't call any of them the enemy. Remove the word from your lexicon. Remove it from your personal dictionary, at least when it comes to your business. The word enemy, by the way, carries with it a negative charge. Every word in your language carries an electrical charge. Meaning when you hear it or when you say it, an electrical charge goes with it and it turns something on or off within you. Some words are inherently negative. They're like a big backpack full of negative energy. And some words like love and passion and compassion are positive words that carry a positive charge. The word enemy carries a negative charge. And there's only one way to deal with an enemy, and that's to defeat it. So when you use that word, you're constantly telling your subconscious mind that there's a war, that there's a battle, that there's somebody out to get you. They're lurking in the bushes, and they must be defeated. And I can tell you that that's an inordinate amount of mental and emotional energy being spent dealing with something inside of you that would be and could be much better utilized in your business, the energy I'm talking about. Could be much better utilized in your home, with your family, in your community, and for your own health and well-being. And by the way, while you're railing about those stupid realtors, the enemy, they're off living their lives. They're changing the world one buyer and seller at a time. There's a saying that worrying about things or carrying negative thoughts is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. And when you carry negative thoughts and energy about realtors or lenders or Fannie or whoever it is, you're drinking the poison, my friends. The other person isn't affected one bit. Your negative emotions are only hurting you. Get rid of that word. Okay, now that we have that covered, the push-pull method and how to look at, hopefully, real estate agents. Now on to Janelle's question. She asked about being both a realtor and an appraiser, and of course I used that now to broach the subject of how we see real estate agents and how we work with them. And she asked about being both a realtor and an appraiser simultaneously. And so my hope in talking about the whole first part that we just came through is that it partially answered Janelle's question and also possibly inspired her to see a huge opportunity in both businesses, because there is one. And although I am not a fan of anybody splitting their efforts and energy in life and business, I understand how and why this happens in our business. So before I go further, I want to expand a little bit on this idea of splitting your time and energy, because I think there's tremendous value in it. Again, kind of a life lesson. We all only have so much energy. We all only have so much creativity, so much time, and resources to spread over our day and the activities that we choose to invest our time in. Anybody with children knows exactly what I'm talking about. You have no choice but to spread out your time, your energy, and your resources in a variety of different directions to make sure that your children have all the love, all of their needs are met, and all the experiences they need to become healthy, productive young men and women, and eventually productive members of society, and eventually happy adults who do the same with their children. And often what is left over after we give to our children, we give to our businesses, we give to our significant others, and then we give to our children, is less than optimal for what we'd like to do or have then for ourselves. So now apply this idea to your business, especially if you're already working off limited time and energy, emotional or physical or otherwise, because you've given to your family or others first. Maybe you're not in the best health or physical condition, and then try splitting up your time, your energy, and your efforts between two related but very different businesses, two different businesses that require different types of personality traits, different skill sets, different hats, if you will. It can be a stretch. And often what happens is one of the businesses gets the short end of the energy stick, both from a physical and from an emotional standpoint. So as an example, let's say you focus on being a good realtor and farming your area for business. That's a real estate term when you focus on a particular geographical region. It's called farming. You are trying to build up a name and a brand, and you do all the important stuff needed to be successful in the real estate business. It becomes very difficult to then focus on what it takes to be a good appraiser. Not impossible. It's just constantly taking off and putting on those different hats can be a little bit tiring. Not impossible by any means, just difficult. I know several people in my market who do this, and I would say they are always better at one of those things than they are at the other. Most of the ones I know who do it are better realtors than they are appraisers, both in the quality of their appraisal work, not always, I'm not saying they're bad appraisers, but their passion seems to be in selling real estate. And we're going to get to personality as well and how that affects this. So most of the ones who do it are usually better at being a real estate agent than they are at an appraiser. Because if they're better at being an appraiser, they typically don't have the personality and the go get it motivation to become a good realtor, which is what it takes. And I say this with some working knowledge of their work in both arenas, the real estate arena and the appraisal arena. Again, not that they're bad at either one. They're just not great at either. And they may disagree with me, but having been in this market as a realtor, as a lender, and as an appraiser for almost 25 years, I've been an appraiser for 18 of those, but again, I was in lending and then real estate. So almost 25 years combined. I know all of them, and I know their work. I've reviewed their work, and I've also appraised homes that they've listed and sold. All good people, by the way, with the best of intentions. They'll just never be great at either, in my opinion, because of the split energy. It's lost focus. I also know, as a side point, a good many lenders who will not work with them as appraisers because of their dual role as realtor and appraiser. Lenders are looking to work strategically with realtors, and they're looking to work separately strategically with appraisers. But they're the prospecting to realtors so that the realtor will send their buyer and their seller business to the lender. And some of them see the dual role as a conflict of interest, and they don't want any part of it. I don't necessarily see it that way myself, but I understand the sentiment. And my point is more that the energy requirements involved with trying to build two different houses, two different offices, two different businesses. I'm not saying physically. You can be an appraiser and a real estate agent in the same office. But you're trying to build two different businesses that require different things. And now with that being said, and thinking of my own experience in all of those roles, as well as my knowledge of the local market, and what it takes to be successful in all of those varied roles, Janelle, I'll give you some advice. I believe if I chose to do what you're thinking of doing. If I reactivated my real estate license and I focused on that for the next couple years while also being an appraiser, so doing what you're suggesting doing, I believe I would tear up this market and quickly become a top producer based on what I know it takes. Now, I know it sounds very egotistical. I get it. But I'm expressing that in both the real estate sales side as well as the appraisal business, the bar is fairly low for becoming really good in either business if you just do a few things really well. One of those things on the appraisal side is getting in good with real estate agents and learning to network. Low-hanging fruit. And of course, on the real estate side, it is networking as well, but to an exponentially larger degree. And if I got in it, I would focus on real estate sales. I would focus on creating a team. I would outsource some of the marketing. And I would focus on marketing heavily with video, with podcasts. I would network my ass off. I would build strategic partnerships. I would do speaking gigs. I would develop Con Ed courses for realtors like we have. I would do homebuyer workshops. I would build partnerships with attorneys. I'd go visit relocation departments of the big corporations in my area, and on and on and on. I would build this whole strategy. Here's our goals. Here's our list. Here's the activities we need to be doing. And all the while, I'd take the appraisal work that comes in to supplement my real estate building, business building efforts, and help cash flow coming in. And that's basically what happens with dual real estate agents and appraisers. They are primarily, first and foremost, real estate agents who also do appraisals occasionally. But I would say you have to focus on one over the other, just like you have to focus on your kids over some of your hobbies if you want to develop respectful, happy, healthy children. I'm not saying not to do it, Janelle. I'm just cautioning you to understand the big picture. I'm giving you some things to think about as you look at your options. My advice to anybody in any industry is to burn your boat. If you've never heard that term, I did a whole podcast in my Aikido industry about burning your boat. It's basically a Viking term where they supposedly would land on the shores and then they would make everybody burn the boat so there was no retreat. There was no option. They could never run back to the boats and sail away. They had to either die trying, or win. So my advice to anybody in any area is burn your boat. Focus all your efforts in one area. Don't give yourself an option of retreat. And typically when people are talking about dual roles, they're keeping one foot on first base while they're trying to also go to second base, and you can't. You haven't burned your boat. You're saying, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to dip my toe in the water. And if it doesn't work, I'll just go back to this one. I learned that lesson well while studying Zen and the martial arts. The power of directed focus is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Where a mind is directed and focused, the resources and energy follow. They come to you. Where the focus is split, fractured, a little bit over here, a little bit over there, the energy splits too, but here's the thing. It's never 50-50. You might think to yourself, yeah, that's okay. I'll put 50% of my energy over here and 50% over there. No, that's not what happens when you split energy. It's dispersed, and it's lost in sometimes competing areas. You set your mind and your focus in one area, and you do it 100%. You'll see the effort and the results pay off in spades. Doors will open for you, opportunities will open up, and the resources will flow to you in ways that you would not recognize or see if you split your efforts and your energy between two different areas. Again, not saying you can't do it. I just want to let you know what happens when you split your focus and your energy. You can do it for sure. That's not a question. Many do. The question is just which will suffer more by your split focus. And if you're thinking of building a real estate business, your real estate business will suffer or lag in ways that you won't be able to identify if you're putting energy in both. And if you're looking to build your appraisal business up, then that's the one that suffers, since your efforts to build up that business, at least to build it the right way, will conflict in some ways with your real estate business. And of course, with that being said, we haven't addressed at all, just like my talk with Derek's question in the last episode. Personality is a big factor in the answer to this question. Usually when people are asking about doing real estate and appraising, real estate sales and appraising, it's because they feel they have a personality geared more toward doing one over the other. And usually when the question comes up, it's because they feel they have a personality geared more towards selling real estate, meaning they're more outgoing than they have for sitting behind a desk and working on an appraisal report, which is a very singular activity, typically individual. Difference between playing on a team, I play hockey, do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Those are all sports where you're interacting with individuals versus, say, tennis, golf, individual sports. And different people are geared toward different activities. So people asking on this topic are usually trying to express in some way, shape, or form that they're not getting fed in the appraisal side, and this is a super important idea, they feel they can make a greater difference in the real estate business. Because everybody has a desire to leave a legacy, to do something with their lives, to mean something, and for their work to add some and have some meaning for them in their lives. And unfortunately, it's no fault of the appraisal business, but it can be very difficult to find that meaning in the appraisal business. You have to create it for yourself. So I will end my advice to you, Janelle, on this topic by simply saying, you can do whatever you set your mind to. I know this. And the fact that you ask the question means you're intelligent, you're on top of things, and you're aware, and you will do what's right. Here's the key. You'll do what's right for you based on all the things we just talked about. And I know there are others listening that operate this way, by the way, dual real estate agent and appraiser, and they probably have some insights in this regard as well. And of course, some of those insights and opinions may conflict or disagree with what I believe on this topic, and that's okay. I would love to hear what some of you have to say on this topic if you do have some experience doing both real estate sales and appraising. So I would say let's discuss it over at the Real Value Podcast page. It's a brand spanking new Facebook page, and the place that I would love to have some of you start gathering to have good quality discussions about the topics on the podcast. I don't intend to have it be a virtual water cooler bitch fest like so many of those types of forums. No, it's to talk about in positive ways the topics on the podcast and how we can spread the message and spread ideas. So feel free to go over there and start conversations about things and topics that we talk about on the show. I'll leave a link in the show notes, by the way, for the Facebook page, and also in the email that goes out to all of the Value Syndicate members. Now, what is the Value Syndicate, you ask? Well, great question. The Value Syndicate is the new name for the former Real Value Tribe. If you listen to the first episodes, I always referenced to join the Real Value Tribe by giving us your best email address, and we'll send the podcast directly to your email address. However, I have rethought it and I have renamed it the Value Syndicate. And so to be a member is absolutely free. All you have to do is head over to the Real Value Cast or realvaluegroup.com, put in your best email address where you'd like me to deliver the podcast each week. Now, it may be free. There is no cost, but it is not without value. It is the only way that you can receive also the bonus content that I occasionally put out sometimes. I don't record bonus content with every episode, but when I do make bonus content, I only deliver it to the Value Syndicate members so as not to overload the regular listeners with too much non-real estate or appraisal stuff. And the Value Syndicate subscription is our way of permission marketing, as Gary Vaynerchuk calls it. You give us permission to occasionally email you with some valuable content. We don't overload you. You might get one every couple weeks when we have it, and we promise to add some value to your day, your week, your month, and hopefully your business and life as well. You also do get the podcast delivered right to your email address each week, so you don't have to go searching for it on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever it might be lurking. Now, last but certainly not least, I would like to give another Real Value Podcast unasked for, unsponsored, unpaid for plug about the upcoming Appraiser Fest coming to Texas November 1st through the 3rd. Mark Skapinetz, Phil Crawford, voice of Appraisal, Lori Noble, and some others have undertaken to build something unlike our industry has ever seen. At least that's what they say. Now, I can tell you from experience, these kind of events are not easy to put together. I have put together many a large conference in the Aikido and defensive tactics realm, and they are a ton of work. They're usually a big loss financially, so we know they're pulling money out of their pockets. I doubt they're in it for financial gain. If they are, they're going to be sorely disappointed. I think they already know this. But of course, by doing something like this, it can be vastly rewarding for the participants. The fact that the people that are putting Appraiser Fest together have committed their time, their energy, and their personal resources to pull something like this off, by the way, folks, is good news for our industry. With all the bad news, with all the doom and gloom that's out there, I see this as good news, which is why I'm willing to talk about it. Again, they have not asked me. I've never spoken with Phil Crawford. I've never spoken with Lori Noble. I did have a conversation with Mark Skapinetz the other day, a great conversation. I called him. He did not call me. But I see it as good news for our industry, and I say this for a few different reasons. One, from a leadership standpoint. I'm a big leadership guy. It's good to see leadership in our industry rise up and take the lead on some of the issues facing our industry and talking about them. And again, Phil Crawford is great at this on Voice of Appraisal. These kind of things may start small at first, but with a clear goal and a vision, of course, they could very well grow into something very big in the future with some real positive effects for the participants, those who attend, as well as potentially a more unified voice at the upper levels of decision-making in the industry. Secondly, it's good news for our industry because, quite honestly, this is just my own personal opinion. The conferences and seminars that are common in our business can be, quite honestly, snooze fests. I am all for education, I'm all for learning, and I'm all for growing whenever and wherever one can. However, with the advent of the internet, we all know that we can sit in the comfort of our living rooms and learn new tactics, new strategies, and new ways for becoming better appraisers. So if you're going to take your hard-earned resources, your money, your most valuable currency, your time, and go spend a weekend, or in some cases a Monday through Wednesday, some of the other conferences do, and spend it with a bunch of appraisers, party animals that they are, they'd better be the best and most motivated in the business so that you can come away with new energy, new ideas, and new motivation for being the absolute best in your market. And that takes a couple of things. Again, just my opinion. I personally have little interest in leaving my family, my dogs, my home to go sit in a conference room somewhere, however nice it may be, listening to Fannie Mae speak at a conference. It's not that I don't care what they have to say. I don't want to go sit in a conference room to listen to them. I'll hear it on the news. I follow lots of industry news, lots of mortgage news, lots of financial news. I'll see what they have to say. I have little interest in listening to Alamode, Bradford Technologies, ANOW, Spark, Datamaster. Not knocking them as sponsors for Appraiser Fest or the other conferences that they're sponsors of. I just have little interest in traveling outside of my home, giving up my valuable time away from my family to go sit and listen to them kind of hawk their products and their wares. Because again, I know that I can get it off the internet. They all have an online presence. They all have training videos. They all have customer service departments that'll walk you through their technology step by step. That's not the reason you go to a conference. And I personally, again, I have little interest in traveling far away for a weekend to learn a new method of performing some kind of market analysis or charting or graphing or market extraction method of developing an adjustment. Not that that's not important, but I can learn all that stuff online. I can go to courses nearby my home with great teachers. Now, that's just me. I travel a fair amount, so when I do travel, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most value possible that I can bring back to my business or my family. And I know that that's also the struggle for Phil, Mark, and Lori in getting appraisers to Appraiser Fest, because appraisers can be, like I'm expressing, a tad introverted, and they like to sit at home. So, of course, one of the ways they can get people there is to offer it as Con Ed, which many of those festivals do. It's awesome to have that as an additional benefit and a great way to get some Con Ed hours. But with that being said, my sincere hope for Appraiser Fest is that it becomes the place to be for appraisers to learn more of the valuable skills that they're currently missing and in need of, and less of the stuff that may not matter as much in the bigger picture and in the long run. It's not to say that appraiser training doesn't matter. Let me make that point very clear. I'm not talking about dumbing down the appraisal business. I'm a huge fan of appraisers learning absolutely everything they possibly can to be the absolute best appraiser you can be, have as many methods for determining value and articulating it in reports as you possibly can. We have an episode coming up, by the way, that's preliminarily called, the title may change, Thank You, But Your Services Are Not Needed Anymore, where I'll talk about how all of the technical skills of the valuation business don't mean a hill of beans in light of some of the other deficiencies exhibited by lots of appraisers and lots of appraisal offices in this country. Just as we discussed splitting your energies in 2 or more areas on this particular episode, my sincere hope for Appraiser Fest is that they stay focused on the important areas that they say they will, lest they simply become yet another industry trade show, highlighting software, hardware, technical training, along with, I'm sorry to say, very boring speeches about the market and statistics and things like that. We can get all of that stuff online and on the news every single day. It's not why you leave your home, leave your family, and spend your time. And much of it, by the way, doesn't help our businesses in any appreciable way. I'm not saying that training doesn't. You can come back and be a better appraiser, but if you have no business, or you then come back and still start complaining because of the AMC work or those damn realtors or whatever, then everything you learned about creating a scatter plot or scatter chart and a graph and the market and where none of that means anything. It may help us be better informed in some way, but unless you turn that into a way to get more business, produce better reports, and then market to the public why you're the best, become more efficient in your business, make more money, live better lives, give it all away if you want to, I don't care, help more people, and build a better mousetrap, it's all more useless noise in an extremely noisy world. The vital skills that so many appraisers are in need of, and again, I hope that Mark and Phil and Lori and anybody else involved in doing these things is listening, because the vital skills that so many appraisers are in need of are marketing, communication skills, sales, leadership, meditation, health and wellness, goal setting, business planning, setting up a killer appraisal office, how to properly mentor other appraisers, creating efficiencies and optimizations in an appraisal office or appraisal business, going mobile, still a lot of appraisers not mobile, website development, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, branding, speaking. How about have Toastmaster there? Do a 1-hour quick program on speaking. How to create content like podcasts, blogs. And I know there's Ryan Lundquist and some others are going to be there speaking, which I think is awesome. How about investing and saving? How many appraisers are good at that? Best accounting practices, how to set up your QuickBooks for an appraisal office. It has to be tweaked. There's some certain line items that every appraisal office should have in there if you're properly accounting. How to use your technology better. Social media best practices. Oh boy, we've got a podcast coming up on social media soon. Social media do's and don'ts. The problem of oversharing. How about social media marketing? Using Facebook and Instagram to get more business, and a few other things. There's a whole list that I sincerely hope we'll start to see in some of the expos and fests in our industry. And again, my sincere hope, I have a lot of faith in Appraiser Fest. My sincere hope for Appraiser Fest is that it is, or at least becomes, maybe it won't this first time. They need sponsors. They got a lot of stuff they got to do. I get it. But my hope is that it becomes the appraiser's kind of anti-expo of sorts. The expo leading the way in all the skill sets, hard and soft skills, that this industry is screaming for, at least in my opinion. And again, I chatted with Mark Skapinetz earlier this week, and I'm really excited to see what the Appraiser Fest holds for the future. I know they just dropped an episode last night, Voice of Appraisal, where they said that the long-awaited, much ballyhooed, mysterious cloud-based software called Freedom is going to be at Appraiser Fest. We're all excited to see what that holds for the future. And I'm excited to see what Appraiser Fest holds for the future. So for everybody listening to this episode, send lots of positive energy to Mark, Phil, Lori, and anybody else helping in pulling this whole thing together, because it's a huge undertaking. So please send them lots of love for pulling off a successful first Appraiser Fest. And to Janelle, who asked the great question about being a realtor and an appraiser, go kick some ass in whatever you do. Whatever you choose, if it's in both the real estate and the appraising world, I'm confident that after today, you will figure out the absolute best way to make that happen for you. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting, inspiring people who challenge you in both industries, and you'll make a difference in this world. And isn't that what it's about? Thank you, my friends. That is it for me. I'd like to thank you for listening to the Real Value Podcast, and I look forward to chatting with you again on the next one. I am out.